That is an amazing invention, the tractor. The tractor does not get enough love for being a great American invention. It has basically helped build a prosperous nation. A lot of farmers use tractors, backhoes, other farm equipment to feed America, to fuel America, and to raise their family, raise their children. And today we're going to talk about a farmer by the name of Norville Johnson, who was just your average everyday farmer, except in his case, he died a very, very violent death. Norville Eugene Johnson was born on May 18th, 1904 in Kansas. Just regular old flat Kansas. And, when Norville is a young adult, he makes the big decision to move all the way to boring flat Nebraska. He's going to buy a piece of property and he's going to be a farmer. And in his travels somewhere down there, he would meet a lovely young lady. She was young at one time or another, Ava Mae Hantham. So in 1925, Norville, he marries Ava, and she becomes Ava Mae Johnson. And the Johnsons, they would move to Frontier County, which is where we're at right now, Nebraska. And they would settle down on a piece of property. From here, it's about 7 miles straight where I'm pointing the camera. I wish I could have found where the actual farmhouse, where the farm was, but I could not find the address. Even in their census records, they didn't have an address. Very strange. Now, Norville and Ava Mae, they were your normal, everyday, salt of the earth farmers. They farmed corn. That's all they did. Norville didn't know a lot about the world, but he did know his corn. And so they would be married, and for the next 25 years, they would just do farm stuff. And every Sunday, they would go to church. Ava Mae was very active in the church, and she also taught Sunday school, teaching the Bible to children. 2 God-fearing Christians living here in Frontier County. Now, a lot of couples, when you're married for a while, they do certain things that get on your nerves, or, you have certain quirks or bad habits, and, your husband loves you, so he puts up with them, and you love him, so you put up with them as well. Now, Norville had a couple of things about him that Ava Mae did not care for. Number one, she didn't like the fact that he spoke really, really slow. That would kind of get on her nerves. Like when you're telling a story and the person just won't get on with it, kind of like some YouTubers where you just kind of don't get to the point of the story, kind of like how I'm doing now. So that got her hot under the collar. But let me tell you, that was nothing compared to what really bothered her. And that was the word, I don't know if I can say it here, the word sex. It was sex, S-E-X. The problem was she wasn't getting any. Now, the couple didn't have any kids. I don't know if it's because the plumbing was bad in between either Ava Mae or Norville, but the lack of intimacy was something that Ava Mae, she's 43 years old. And man, what's that old saying? All because there's no fire doesn't mean the pilot's not lit. And let me tell you, her pilot was lit. It's probably lit a little bit too much. So sex with Norville was like, well, it didn't really happen. And when it did, it was just like, you just kind of like, lay there and just wait for it to be over and done with. No intimacy, no kissing, no caressing, No, like, little dirty talk. Yeah, no little dirty talk anybody. No, not with Norville there. Norville was just a regular old farmer. And unfortunately, the only plowing that was going on the Johnson farm was the corn. So one day in end of April, it's time to hire a farmhand. So Norville puts an ad out in the newspaper, and a young man named Harvey Durban, 28 years of age, he answers the ad. And he calls him and he says, hey, I'm looking for work, so come on down. So Norville comes on down, tells him to come on down. So Harvey meets him at the Johnson farm, and he's like, well, tell me about yourself. And Harvey's like, well, I got some kids, I'm from Missouri, I'm just looking for work. Times are hard, times are difficult, not a lot of work in Missouri. And he's like, all right. He goes, well, I got another guy's coming, so I'll call you tomorrow and I'll let you know if you got the job or not. So he leaves, the other guy comes, and there's something about, Harvey, maybe he likes him better. So he calls Harvey the next day, he said, you got the job. Job's yours, kid. So Harvey comes to the farm, and he would live on the farm, and he would work 8 hours a day. And so when Ava May sees Harvey, she's like, wow, he's a very nice looking young man. Innocently enough, just admiring a beautiful person, right? There's nothing wrong with that. And so as time goes on, she starts kind of fantasizing. We often sometimes do a little bit of fantasy, just fantasizing. I wonder what it would be like to, no. But she would always kind of wonder, it's what's it like. So April turns into May, and one day, it's getting warm. It's not like hot summer, but it's warm. It's in the 80s. So she gets a pitcher of water in a glass, and she goes out to the field to bring it to Harvey. And she says, hey, are you thirsty? And he says, oh, yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. So she pours him a glass and gives it to him, and he drinks it down really, really quickly. She asks him, she says, hey, do you want another glass? And he says, yes, please. So she pours him another glass, and he drinks it down, and then they just start talking. And all of a sudden, her wrist accidentally rubs against his. And next thing you know, his hand grabs her by her arm, and he brings her into him, and he starts kissing her very, very passionately, in a way to where she's never been kissed like that ever in her life. She's like, oh my God, what is this? And then they're just making like he is so strong. That's the first thing she noticed. His hands are strong, but gentle. And she just lets him take her in. So they kissed and they made out, and then they stopped, and she's like, oh my God, I'm sorry. And he goes, no, it's fine. I've always wanted to kiss you. And so she goes, I better get into the house because Norville's going to be home soon. So Norville comes back and they go to sleep. It's the same old usual, no sex. But she can't get Harvey off of her mind. She cannot get that man off of her mind. She can barely sleep the entire night. So the alarm goes off at 4:45, and she wakes up and she's like, did I even sleep? She's wide awake. So she gets up out of bed, starts making breakfast. Norville comes down around 5:30. They have breakfast. They're not saying much. It's kind of like the usual thing. They don't really talk very much. What is there to talk about? Not a whole lot. So as they're, talking, he says, hey, I got to go into McCook. I got some affairs to attend to. I'll be back at lunch. So 6 a.m., he's out of here. And so, 7:30, 7 o'clock is the start time for Harvey. So he's working out in the field. So about a couple hours later, she goes out there and she's like, hey, You know, like they just started talking. Like that was kind of weird, right? We just started kissing. And Harvey says, do you feel bad? Like, do you feel guilty? And she says, not at all. Not at all whatsoever. And he would, you know, caress her, touch her ever so gently. A touch in a way that Norville can never, ever do. Never would touch her like that. So they start making out. They start kissing. And she grabs him by the hand and slowly walks to the farmhouse with him. And so they would go up the stairs to the bedroom and they would have the sex, if you will, have the sex. Now, if there's any kids in the audience, you might want to cover their ears up when I'm about to tell you this part. So listen, not to get graphic, that's not this kind of channel, but let's just call it what it is. Harvey takes Ava Mae to Pound Town. Yeah, Pound Town City, population 1 or 2, depending on who you are. So they start going at it like a couple of feral cats, if you will. I could probably have made another analogy, a better analogy, but again, this is a PG-13 channel, and it shall remain so until my dying days. But he just works her over. She has never in her life experienced that in her life. Like, they're only having sex for 2 minutes, and with Norville, he'd already been done, gassed out, rolled over on a bed and snoring. So they go at it for at least 20 minutes. And then they're getting sweaty and everything's hot and heavy. And by this time now, she's out of breath. She cannot believe she just fornicated. Whatever, fornication. Had some fornication with another man. And after they're done, they kind of like, you know, arrange their clothes, and so they go downstairs and they talk, and then they're like talking for like 20 minutes. He goes, all right, I better get back to work. So he goes out into the field, and then about an hour later, she comes to grab him again, and she goes, she takes him back to that farmhouse, and she puts it on him. She puts it on him. She didn't know that she could do that. She didn't know that she had it in her. No pun intended. But pun intended. It was like the devil and Mrs. Jones, but the devil and Mrs. Johnson. No pun intended, because that's her name, married name. So they would have sex again. And they tore that bed up. And she goes, oh my God, like, you know, her hair's all frazzled and she has like the biggest smile on her face. And so she tells him like, oh, okay, you know, you better get back to work because he's going to be home soon. So he goes downstairs, he goes out to the field, she makes the bed up, and she like fixes her clothes, and she is like in Google land, Gaga land. She can't believe it. She's like, she has felt, she didn't know at the time, but she had she didn't know it. And she's like, you know, she just falls on the sofa. She's like, oh my God. Like, her body is tingling, her emotions, her mind is racing. She's like in ecstasy. She feels like this gentle breeze envelop her, over her bosom, up her neck, up other things. And she's like, oh my God. Oh my God. Oh crap. Norville's gonna be home any minute now. So she runs and she's like fixing everything up, making sure like everything that, you know, that everything is like where it should be. You know, she doesn't want to try to like, you know, make it seem like that he's like, you know, anything suspicious or anything like that. So he comes home and she's like, hi honey, how you doing? And he's like, oh, fine. And he sits at the table, he goes, where's lunch? And she's like, she forgot to make lunch. She forgot to make lunch because she was having lunch with Harvey Durban. So she tells him, oh, I'm sorry, honey, I got preoccupied. Very preoccupied. So she makes lunch and serves it to him. And then, you know, Harvey gets off of work. He goes to his quarters. And for the rest of the evening, she's kind of quiet. She's a God-fearing woman. She goes to church every week, teaches, you know, Sunday school children. She should feel guilty. She should be like on her knees, like praying, the Lord, please forgive me, for I not know what I have done. But damn well, she knew what she did. She knew exactly what she did, and she wanted to do it again. So the next day, she wakes up, and it was another night of listening to Norville snore. And this time, no, she had a, you know, that Harvey put a kick in her get along, if you will. So he went downstairs, he went out to the farm, and that was it. Now you fast forward a couple days later. So Norville says, hey, I'm gonna go into town. I'll be back. She's like, all right, cool. As soon as she sees that truck into the distance, the dirt from that dirt road, the dust settling, she goes back out to that farm because she wants a piece of Harvey Durban's Durban. So they go upstairs and they just, like animals. So this process would repeat over and over. And the times that Norville wouldn't go anywhere, where he was just like working out in the field, she would sneak over to where he was and just, you know, talk to him, and I miss you. And he would say, I miss you too, babe. I miss you, you know. And, you know, she would sneak like a quick peck, like a kiss, and then she would go away. And then, you know, other times it'd be more than a peck. They would just start ravishing each other. That's the word that they used back in the days, ravishing. And then when Harvey would leave, go into town, again, banging it out, baby, banging it out. Sometimes Norville wouldn't go into town, so she would take him in. They would sneak behind the old barn, and he would just bend her that way and just go to town. Just go to town. Right behind, like he's literally on the tractor, and you could hear them, and they're just like. She does not feel bad. She does not feel guilty. She wants this kind of feeling all the time. And, you know, one day, it's June, right? And so, you know, he says, wouldn't this be great if we could just do this all the time? We didn't have to sneak around on your husband's back. And she's like, yeah, for sure. And he's like, if there was only one way, like, you know, he would like just leave, just disappear. If only he would disappear. Now, Harvey wasn't a rich man. I mean, they only had about maybe $5,000 in the bank. But, you know, he has some war bonds, so he can cash those in at a later date in time. The farm at the time is worth about $30,000. Maybe if you hold your price, maybe $32,000. But Norville, he has a life insurance policy. Right? He has a life insurance policy for another $15,000. So if Norville were to accidentally die, just accidentally, maybe his truck, you know, went off the road. That's about $50,000 if you sell the farm, or you can keep the farm. Now, I don't know if Ava Mae knew that Harvey had kids back in Missouri, but they would talk about how great it would be if he would just disappear or die. So one day they're talking, and Harvey's like, yeah, man, it'd be great if if you were to die, but we can't do that. But if we were to do that, you got to make it look like an accident. You got to make it look like an accident. And you got to make it look like an accident. You got to make it look like an accident. You got to make it look like an accident. That is ringing over and over in Ava Mae's mind. So Ava Mae forms a plan in her head. So she tells Harvey, she goes, I'll take care of it. I got an idea. So June 22nd, 1950, Harvey is in the field plowing, this time corn, not Ava Mae. So Norville goes out to town. He has some business in McCook again. So as soon as he leaves, right back at it, banging it away. You spin me right round, baby, right round, like a record player, right round, 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 pound, 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 town. So after they're done, they fix their clothes, and they would, act like nothing's happening. So Ava starts putting her plan into place. So when Norville gets home, she says, hey, the engine downstairs, the belt fell off again. And he's like, oh, man, this again. So Norville takes off his jacket and he goes down to the basement. He gets his flashlight and he's working on the engine downstairs. And so as he's working on the engine, Ava gets a bucket, and in this bucket is gasoline. This broad takes the bucket from around the barn, comes into the house, and as she's looking into the basement and was watching him on his hands and knees work on that engine, she flings that whole bucket of gasoline right on top of him, sloshing him everywhere. And he goes, what? And before he says anything, because he doesn't just realize what happened, she takes a match and flicks it. And a big ball of flame and screams emanate from Norville's body. He is screaming like crazy. Ah! And Ava Mae, she's scared. So she runs out of the house and she's running as fast as she can to the field. And she says, Harvey, I did it. And he says, you did what? What'd you do? She says, I did it. I did what I was gonna do. I got rid of Norville. I threw a bucket of gasoline on him and then I set him on fire. He's like, what the hell are you talking about? She goes, no, I'm serious, I did. He's like, are you serious? He goes, that house is gonna burn down. We gotta go put the fire out. So he runs like hell to the house and grabs whatever he can with water. And as they get to the house, he's expecting like the inside of the kitchen to be like all in flames and burning down. No, nothing at all. The fire was only in the basement, and they see Harvey, his entire body burnt, clothes melted off of him. His shirt, polyester shirt, was like kind of melted but stuck to his skin, and he is in intense agony. This guy is burned all over his body, and there's still parts of it smoldering. And he looks like a sausage link, like a hot link, the same color. And Harvey's like, we got to get him to the hospital. So he's in intense agony. He's like moaning and screaming. He can't talk. They throw him in the truck, and they take him to the closest hospital, which I believe at that time would only be in McCook because it's the only big town around here. Now, normally it would be a 25-minute drive. It took him about an hour and a half because they want to make sure, when they get to the hospital, they're not hitting any bumps because it's going to be painful to him. But in reality, she wants him to die because she's kind of worried now. She can't believe he's still alive. And she's like, well, what if he see me flick the match on him and he's going to tell the sheriff's on me? So they make an hour and a nice slow drive all the way to the hospital. And so they get to the hospital and they get him to the ER. And they're like, what happened? And she's like, oh, he was working on the engine and I think it exploded. So for the next 4 to 6 hours, she's worried and fretting and waiting in the waiting room. Harvey's there. And they're just kind of like looking at each other like they can't believe this is happening. And right at around 6:30, 7 o'clock, the doctors come out and they say, I'm sorry, ma'am, but your husband's gone. And by this time now, she's like, oh my gosh, she's doing the whole fake crocodile tears. Harvey's like, oh my God. Norville's brother, George, he's there. He's beside himself. And that's it, lights out. Norville's dead. So Harvey and Ava Mae would make the long 25-minute drive now, because now they want to get back quickly so they can have sex. So they go back to the house and they just tear the place up. They have sex in the kitchen. Let's try it in the bathroom, in the bathtub, in the shower, whatever. And then they start talking about now, like, you know, the money, what are they gonna do with the farm, this and that, blah, blah, blah. But Harvey, you know, he watches like detective TV shows when he can. You know what I mean? Or at least shorts. What they would have the shorts in the movie theaters, because there was no TV over there at the time. So he's seen like detective movies, shorts, and he knows that you got to play it cool, daddy-o. You can't let the coppers know what's going on. So he just tells her, just act cool, act calm, act normal. A few days later, 2 detectives from the Frontier County Sheriff's Department, they come out, or it could have been another sheriff's department. Maybe Frontier didn't have their own sheriff's department. I'm not really sure. But somebody came out, and it was 2 guys. And they're like, hey, Mrs. Johnson, we're sorry we have to do this, but we wanted to talk to you about what you've seen, what took place, you know, on the 22nd, and we wanted to see the basement. And, you know, she's like, you know, crying, crocodile tears. She's very, very upset, crying, whatever. So they go down to the basement, and they're looking around, and one of the guys, he's not an arson investigator, but he could be. He knows about arson. So he's looking at the burn pattern on the walls, and he's saying, you know, something's not adding up. He's just telling that to himself. And then he looks at his partner looks at him, they're like, yeah, something's weird. So they're looking around, and they're like, okay, you know, something's fishy. They can see the burn pattern go through the, you know, from the stairs up to the concrete floor, up the asbestos wall to the ceiling. But surprisingly enough, the kitchen was not touched. There's no, you know, it still smells like soot in there, but that's about it. It just smells like soot and gasoline. So they went upstairs and they said, okay, Mrs. Johnson, we're sorry. We're going to go now. Our condolences to you. So they leave. So Ava, as soon as they leave out the door, she goes out the back, out to the field where Harvey's working, and she tells him, like, the detectives were here. You know, blah, blah, blah. He's like, yeah, just play it cool. As they're talking to detectives, they come walking down through the corn, and they're carrying a bucket. And this bucket smells like gasoline. And the detectives, they say, why is this water bucket, why does it still have gasoline in there? And she goes, I don't know, what do you mean? And they say, well, what we mean is, Mrs. Johnson, we think that you killed your husband. We think that you set him on fire. And she's like, what? I would never. What, are you crazy? Are you crazy? Are you crazy? I would never do that. I would never kill my husband. He said, shut up, you dumb broad. You're coming with us. I don't think he called her a dumb broad, but I would have. So they take her to the station. And they said, listen, I want to be perfectly honest with you. We know you killed your husband, and we know that you set him on fire. And right now, you're looking at going to the electric chair, because we're going to go for the death penalty in this case. Now, tell us what happened. And she was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he says, listen, Toots. He probably called her something else. Starts with a B, ends with an H. He said, listen, female dog. We had a conversation with Norville's brother, George, and he told us that about a week before he died, that he knew that you were having an affair with that farmhand, excuse me, well, that hound, he is a dog, that farmhand, Harvey Durban. And we know you've been carrying on with him, and we know he's been banging you out, baby. We know it. I don't think they used banging back in those days, but you know what I mean. So I said, we know that you've been having an affair with him, and the burn patterns in the basement don't coincide with any kind of an explosion happening, because there's no evidence of an explosion happening, and there would be no ignition, there would be no fuel for that fire, for that explosion to occur, because that engine ran off of butane and the tank was upstairs. We're not stupid. We know what's going on. We see the burn patterns coming from the stairs where the gasoline was lit, set on fire. Now tell us the truth, because right now we're going to arrest you for first-degree murder, and we're going to give you the death penalty. You're going to die in the electric chair. And so finally she says, like, you know, she goes, Harvey put me up to it. He told me to do it. They're like, oh, Harvey, huh? And they're like, okay, cool. They said, hey, book this dumb broad over here. Book her. She's done. So they grab her by her granny looking neck and they fling her in a jail cell and they slam the door. Well, first they would, you know, take prints and take her mugshot. So she's charged with first-degree murder. They would later go to the farm, go grab Harvey Durban, bring him to the station, and they tell her, okay, so, you know, she says that you put her up to killing the husband there. He says, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't tell her to kill anybody. I don't want that old bag of bones. Have you seen her? Ugh. He said, I'd rather do something else unpleasant with somebody else. I'm not going to bang her. What are you, nuts? Come on, I have standards over here. Hey, I might be a lowly farmhound, but I got standards, and I got a wife and kids. I would never do that. Look at her. Not gonna go after that weirdo. And they said, all right, look, you're looking at the death penalty. They give her the whole shindig. You're looking at the electric chair. You better tell us the truth right now. Were you carrying an affair with her? Tell us right now. Be honest. And he said, yeah, we had sex. A lot of sex. And the detectives, they went, ew, you had sex with her? Bleh, bleh. They didn't really say that, but I would have. So they don't have enough evidence to really get him on a murder charge, but they did book him for adultery. Now, that was an offense back in the day that you can go to jail for. Nobody's going to jail in the 50s for adultery, but they have it on the book, so they throw his butt in jail, and they charge him with adultery. And then later on, they would charge him with first-degree murder. So the following year, they would both go on trial. The prosecution, they want life in prison for Ava Mae Johnson. Her trial's first. So she goes on trial. They do their evidence, and they find her guilty. However, not of first-degree murder. The jury, they settled on, they had, I think, 3 options. First-degree murder, second-degree murder, and manslaughter. So they went with second-degree murder. So she would end up getting life in prison at hard labor. So now the only thing that she's getting that's hard is the labor. So Harvey Durban, he's going up for trial next. They're going for the death penalty. They're thinking this drifter loser scumbag coming from Missouri just gave this old sexless witch some rock hard candy, if you will, and sexed her, seduced her, if you will. It was as the papers called it, it was an orgy of sex and debauchery, even though orgy is when more than 2 people have sex, from what I gather. So anyways, yeah, the prosecution, they're like, yeah, this guy's got to go to the chair. This guy, he's coming up here swinging his, getting these farm wives to kill their husbands in such a terrible way. Your Honor, I want nothing less than the electric chair for this weirdo, this Durban bourbon guy. Death penalty or nothing at all, Your Honor. I rest my cases. I rest my briefcase. So the jury, you know, you probably have somebody on a jury who's like, I don't feel comfortable for the death penalty. And maybe they didn't feel that he was really behind it. Maybe it was even made. So the jury, they start deliberating. And I'm sure one of them was just not, they're a godly person. They don't want to, cast, a vote for death. And then they have to be responsible for another person's death. So later, the jury would find Harvey Durban guilty of first-degree murder, but they would sentence him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. And this here is the grave of the man who died a horrible, horrible, horrible death. Terrible death. To be burned alive and to be alive for 6-7 hours, withering in pain in the ER. And even though he was in the ER and he couldn't talk, he could not talk because the smoke inhalation, the burns probably scalded his tonsils, his larynx. His brother George, he told me, hey, Ava Mae's having an affair. I got to get this guy off the farm. He's corrupting her. Oh boy, did it. Did he ever corrupt her? And it cost this man his life, this poor man. And this is the Johnson family grave. And I don't see any other Johnson here. So it is only him. I don't know where his family members are, but he's all by himself here in the Johnson family plot. Okay, I am out of here. I got to start making my way east, and something kind of came up with my van, so I was planning on going to Iowa, and I still am, but now I might have to actually make a detour. We'll see what the mechanic says. You put that many miles on a van, not really supposed to be towing a trailer. Well, whatever. Anyways, rest in peace to Norville Johnson. Terrible, terrible, terrible way to go. If you want to run off with your freaky farmhand, just get a divorce. Live but not live, still alive by the grace of God. Lamont at large. I'm out of here. See you on the next video. Peace out.